Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Make sure that we're respecting everyone's time. Welcome to those who are joining us today. We hope that you will find today's session helpful. My name is Whitney Juneau. I am the Director of Co-Curricular Affairs for the School of Architecture and Design. And this Design Department Lunch and Learn series is programming that's designed to provide holistic wellness, provide additional career readiness, and respond to the needs of our design student community. Before we wrap up today, I will put the remaining sessions in the chat so that you can get them on your calendar. And as you probably know, today's session is all about getting ready for the job search season. And we want to welcome Wendy Shoemaker, who is the program director for the University Career Center. And she's going to teach us some tips, tricks, and resources for launching and maintaining a successful job search. So Wendy, I will pass it off to you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. And thank you for the invitation to join you all. This is a topic that is really near and dear to my heart. It's one of the things that got me started with my own career path, which is career coaching, career counseling, college students, helping them find jobs, helping them find purpose and direction. And it's all about finding the job. And so through the years, I have helped a lot of students launch a job search. And I know it's something that is really exciting and a little bit terrifying at the same time. So I hope that today what I can share with you are some tips and tricks and very practical. This is a very practical approach. And from my perspective of helping students and what I think works. And so I've got about 40 minutes worth of content here. If at any time you have a question, just pop it into the chat. I'll try to address it as we go along. But I thought I'd just start with sharing some of the resources that we have available to you in the Career Center that you may not know about. And so this is our website, career.ku.edu. And there's lots of information here. But one of the things two things I'm going to point out to you is one is the hirejayhawks.com. If you're not familiar with that, it's a jobs and internship database. And so every college and university will have a career center that has a jobs and internship database. This is what ours is called. It's the hirejayhawks.com. So KU alumni, area employers. We get curated jobs from around the country and sometimes even international that are posted here. So if you're not familiar with that, I would get familiar with that because it's an absolute free resource for you. You already have an account. You don't know it, but you already have an account, and you just simply need to go in there and fill in some basic information, and you'll be ready to go and to use it to whatever use you, if you're looking for an internship or you're looking for a job. And then the second thing I want to share with you is the career communities. This is kind of a new program that we designed in the last couple of years. And there are 6 different career communities. The one that you are probably interested in is the artists, designers, and performers. So I'm just going to skip to go and show you what's on there. So in here is also a jobs and internship feed. So this comes from Hire Jayhawk. So the jobs and internships that are in Jayhawk, Hire Jayhawks get fed onto this page, if that makes sense. And then there's also events and workshops and info sessions that have been tagged for your particular career community. Sometimes they're general, sometimes they're specific, and a bunch of other information. So anyway, 2 helpful pieces of information that are available on our website. We are going to be referencing a guide called the Strategies for Successful Job Search, and I did pop that link into the chat so you can access that. I thought I'd share with that. So let's go ahead and get started. And all right, so you should be able to see my screen that says professional job searching. And let me know if you can't. Okay. All right. I already mentioned that. So I'm just curious, what methods have you used to land a job? I know all of you here have probably worked somewhere. So I'm curious, what kinds of things, what kinds of modalities, what kinds of things did you do to land a job? If you just want to shout some things out, that's totally fine. If you want to pop something into the chat, that'd be fine too. All right, LinkedIn jobs. Thanks, Sierra. Found jobs on Indeed, applied with my resume. Awesome. All right, good. All right, so two great tools. So I'm hearing lots of online applying. Obviously, you need a resume. All right, we can come back to that. So one of the first tips I would like to share about looking for a job is to break it down into manageable job steps. So here's the thing about the particular job search that you are about to ready to embark on is that this is a professional job search. And this is a little bit different than perhaps what you have done in the past when you were applying for part-time work or something that helped you through school. This is related to your identity, your professional identity. This is important to you. This is something that you are looking for a fit between who you are as a person, your values, your skills, who you are as a professional. And there's a lot at stake here. And so the tips that I'm going to share with you are around practical finding a job things, and then also aligning resources up so that you find something that is effective in terms of what you want, why you came to school, why you came to and embarked in this degree program. You're looking for something that is satisfactory and is something that's interesting and fascinating to you. So, but what's common to any job search, and this is probably something on your mind, is it feels pretty overwhelming. And it can be because you've heard things like looking for a job is a full-time job. And part of that is true because a professional job search takes quite a bit of research and connecting and networking and things like that. And so one of the first things I suggest to students to do is break it down into these small little steps. And that's how we do with big projects. So the first one is to start with focus. And this is highlighted in the job search booklet that I shared earlier. And evaluate gain experience, establish meaningful connections, find job openings, and manage your job search. So turn to page 3. And that link again is also in the chat. And I want you to think through, on that page, you'll notice there's some descriptors of job search targets. And that's a phrase I'm going to use a lot. Job search targets means what you're looking for, okay? And so in my experience working with people, it's not just college students, and I work with a lot with the community members and people who are changing careers. It's very common for people just simply to try to look for a job and start applying right away. And they miss an important step, which is figuring out what is that you're targeting. What are you looking for? And so when I mean job search target, I mean something that has two pieces. One is the type of position, the type of things you're doing, the type of work. It could be a job title. And the second part is the type of organization. Those two pieces make a job search target. Okay. So here's an example you can see on this page, finding your focus. Many people will start with like, I'm not sure, so I'm just going to start applying. Or they'll name things kind of in a vague way, like I just need something in design or architect. That's not specific enough. That's not really a job search target. Now, as we go on here, and it's a strange graphic, I realize, design in a large firm. Okay, we're getting a little bit more specific. Okay, design in a large firm specializing in health and wellness. All right, so you see here, the kinds of the kind of position and the type of organization, and even more specifically, if this makes sense for you in the geographic area. So as specific as you can be is going to help you down the road for a variety of reasons. One, it's going to help you identify who to network with, how to specialize or target your resume, those kinds of things. So tip number 2 is using a variety of tactics to look for jobs. And I see this all the time where people try to just apply only online. And when in reality, if you only apply online, you're going to have a limited success rate. It's not an ineffective way. It just means that your search, the length of time that you're going to be looking for a job is just going to be longer. But if you would like to speed up your job search, I would apply using a variety of methods. Okay, so this graphic here demonstrates what employers, those employers who hire people, what they use, what is effective for them when they hire. And you can see one of the largest areas, or one of the most successful aspects for them, is referrals. And so referrals are people within their network. As they have an opening, they'll say, please, do you know of anyone who has these particular skills, who does this kind of work, and can you send them my way? That is probably the most common thing for recruiters to do, because it's the easiest thing and it's the less expensive thing to do. Posting jobs out on Indeed or other job posting services is expensive. It's time consuming. You have to write a good job description. And and when they put those job descriptions out, often they get a lot of people who apply who are not even qualified. So they really don't want to do that. They really want to, the easiest thing for them is to kind of work with their network. Um, Job aggregators or things like Indeed would be an example where what Indeed is a web crawler. It just goes out and looks for jobs and it posts it on their particular website. Okay. All right, so that tells you right away that referrals, current employees, former employees, intern conversions is another common way. And it's about networking. It's about cultivating your network so you can be that person who gets referred. Okay. And so, if you're applying only on Indeed or looking for only for positions on Indeed, that's a good start. It's a really good start. It can be effective, but I would really encourage you to think of other ways to think about applying. So some of these here, I would notice looking at, contacting a recruiter for a particular company. If it's large enough, the company has a recruiter. So you can find them on LinkedIn and initiate and say, I'm interested in a position with your organization. Job boards, current employees, if you know of a particular organization and you know someone who works there, I would let them know. So I'm a little ahead of myself. I'm going to share more about that in a bit. But so LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, these are just three websites that I particularly like. There's more, of course, but LinkedIn is really good for establishing your professional image. And that's where you're going to kind of start get your mind organized about who you are as a professional, what's your message, what's your value, what makes you unique from other people of your category. You can also follow organizations. Most organizations of size are probably going to have a presence on LinkedIn. So you can follow them. And when you follow them, you can get jobs and internship postings in your feed, which is very helpful. And so Indeed is also another place to look for if you are not quite sure what your job search target is. What I really like about Indeed, and I think is very effective, is that as you go in and look, let's say you type in design or architecture or something like that, it'll start filling in. It does the kind of this word fill in, and it'll give you a sense of some other kinds of job titles, and you start to kind of get a sense of what the lingo is and what kinds of actual job search titles to be looking for. And that helps you focus your thinking on what what kind of job search target you have. So you can also do email alerts on Indeed, which I really like. So if you find a job or an internship you like, you can say, send me more like this, or send me more from this organization, send me more with this particular job title. And I really encourage using email alerts. Indeed has them, usajobs.gov has them, idealist.org, that's a nonprofit website for jobs and internships, has them. And many large job posting services have these email alerts. And so that's another tip, is to use those to your advantage, because you do a couple good searches and fine tuning your searches, and then kind of get the system work for you, and it'll start sending you jobs and internships at your convenience. And they have different settings. Sometimes they say send it once a week, sometimes it's daily. So send me every job. If you're, depending on what your needs are, you can set it. And then Glassdoor is there's many organizations or websites like this, but you can research organizations. You can research their interviewing style, the questions they ask. Vault is another one. You can start preparing for interviews and try to get a sense of, that internal research that you want to do on an organization. That really prepares you well for, writing a good cover letter and resume, but also in prepping for an interview. Okay. So I've been hinting at this, and let me just talk about this. More than 70% of people land jobs through networking. Okay. And, this has been a stat that's been around for a while, and I don't think that's going to change. In fact, it's getting even more important to develop your networking. So let's talk about that. You're going to hear, I'm sure you've heard lots of advice around cultivating your network. And let me reframe that a little bit. I think I like to think about it instead of networking, I think it's about cultivate relationships. Because I think often when we think of networking, it has this connotation of I don't know, getting people to do things for you. When in reality, good networking is about connecting with people, developing relationships, lifelong connections. And that's something everyone can understand and get behind, and you already have it. You already have a network. The reason why I don't like that term is it suggests that you don't have a network. Well, in reality, you already have a network. You have a network of people who you've worked with, former supervisors, current supervisors. You have your colleagues or your peers in your classes. You have your faculty, former and current, and you already have a network. You have friends and family, alumni. You have the Jayhawk Nation, which is robust network. And so you already have a network. And really the trick here with networking is to identify who's in your world here, and so, think about friends, their family, about family of friends and friends of family and classmates and their family members and faculty, and so on. You get the point. Okay. And so when you start listing them out, this is why it's helpful to identify your job search targets. So let me go tie this all up together here. So we started this presentation thinking about what your job search targets are. Okay. Now, I want you to think about your job search targets or what you're looking for. Is it specific enough? Is it not? So if it's not specific enough, you have some research to do. And get it specific enough so that when you are looking at your network of people, you can kind of start aligning like, this person is works for this kind of organization, or they may not know, they may not work specifically with that organization, but they may have a contact who works with that organization. Okay. And so some relationship builders that I think are just easy. These are things that you're probably already doing, but now how they can be effective. So, if you're not making a habit of connecting with your faculty during office hours or any other time to connect with them regularly, I would, and just simply talk to them about, their advice on job searching, but then connect with them personally too and ask them about their career path and how is it they got started. Um, you know, Schedule a phone call or send an email to a former supervisor to share updates. There are people within my network where we do that routinely, about once a year. We just schedule a phone call and just say, hey, I just want to hear what's going on with you, what's new, what's going on with your world, and we share personal and professional things. You can share funny things that come your way as long as it's appropriate. Hey, I saw this and reminded me of you. Also get in the habit as you meet up with new people through other colleagues, peers, supervisors, is to start connecting them into your LinkedIn network. And it's very common where you're working with people and you either when you're working with them directly say, hey, would you mind I send you a LinkedIn network? Or you can say, I'm going to send you a LinkedIn network. Like to stay in contact. Or if you're looking at your LinkedIn profile, they'll suggest people and send them a note and say, hey, I really enjoyed working with you, or just something easy. I would love to stay in contact with you and share my network with you, things like that. So these are just easy things to do that you're already doing. You're likely already connecting with people, emailing people, talking with them on the phone, talking with people. But another strategy is to get comfortable with doing informational interviewing, especially if you are unfamiliar in a number of ways. One is if you're not quite sure what your job search target is, if you're still kind of in that vague space, this informational interviewing is something that you definitely want to consider doing. Okay. Another way is if you're moving to a new region or new area and you're not really familiar, you don't really have a contact out there. Let's say you're moving to San Diego. This is another strategy. So what informational interviewing is, it's just a fancy way of saying meeting up with someone who's working in a field that is interesting to you or is important to you. So it's a brief meeting. You would set it up yourself. You initiate it, and you ask for 15 to 20 minutes, it's likely they will give you more time, but 15 to 20 minutes is kind of the minimum. And you initiate the conversation, you bring the questions, you ask them things like, how did you get started in this field? What are pluses? What are good things? What are some challenging aspects? What are important skills to have? What advice would you give someone like me? Those are kinds of questions you would ask if you're still kind of not sure about your job search target. Now, if you're doing an informational interview for a geographic region, like you're moving to San Diego, I would ask questions like, what advice would you give me? Who are companies who are hiring in the region? What are some regional developments in terms of growth areas? Things like that. And so this is something, and I'll just share with you an example of why this works. I was moving from Wisconsin to Arizona, had to find a job, obviously, and I didn't know anybody. I knew one person who I was getting married, and I was moving there to get married, and that was it. And so I had to cold call people, and I asked them for 15 to 20-minute meeting. I was going down there for a week over spring break, and to look for apartments. And I had one informational interview in the morning. I had one informational interview in the afternoon. I had made a list of people who I thought, might know something about the field that I was targeting. And every single one of them said yes. Now, initially, you may run into the case that I ran into is people will say, I'm not hiring right now. I'm not taking resumes right now. Nope, I'm not looking for a job from you. I'm looking for advice and information. That's a really key phrase to use. And so everyone, when they understood I was just looking for advice and information, said yes. They connect with me. Every single one took longer than 15 to 20 minutes. In fact, I would say some of them went to like hour, 2 hours. I was kind of backing out, like, I gotta go. I had to meet my other meetings. And so I had 10 interviews that week, and it was kind of exhausting, honestly. And I came back, and I was working in Wisconsin, getting ready to move down, and I got a call from somebody who had interviewed, and they said, I saw this job posting, and based on what we talked about, I think you'd be perfect for it. I'm going to put in a good word for you, but I think you should apply. I applied. I got an invitation to interview the day after I landed in Arizona, and I actually got the job offer. So this is effective. It can be, but but the intention that I started with was connecting, building relationships. Many of these people I still have contact with. Okay. So it's not an ineffective way to go. And this is one of your buckets. This is one of the things that you can use to enhance your job search. Okay. So LinkedIn, we've already talked about. I think many of you are already on LinkedIn. You may not know that you have access to University of Kansas alumni through LinkedIn. And so this is just a screen capture about that. And so you can also key in key terms like design or architecture to really narrow it down. What's really nice about this, you can look at, let's say if you're targeting a particular geographic area, you can find all those people who are working in your field in greater Chicago areas demonstrated on the screen, or if there's a particular organization, or if there's a particular skill that you're trying to focus in on, things like that. Okay, very effective tool. By now you know that you need to have a profile, but other ways of enhancing your LinkedIn profile is to think about who you're connecting with and which groups you're following, which companies you're following, thought leaders. Think about that as a way of really enhancing your profile. Okay, so we've talked about narrowing your focus. We've talked about use a variety of tools. We've talked about cultivating relationships or networks. The fourth tip is really the most important, I think, is and it's such a simple thing, let your network know about your job search. So that's why it's important to write out all these friends and family, friends, faculty, supervisors, former faculty, former supervisors, everyone, okay? And let them know about your job search. Let them know exactly what you're looking for. And it is okay to have more than one job search target. In fact, it's better to have a couple, and I'll share with that more about that later. But let your connections know. there's research out there that shows that it's the power of connection is really on the secondary connections and even the third connections. So when we talk about referrals, what we're talking about is the people who know your connections, okay? And it's the first degree connections, that's your list of people you actually know are important, but it's their connections you're trying to access, okay? And that's what the network, that's when it's really working for you. So, but they don't know that if they don't know that you're looking and they don't know what you're looking for, then they can't really refer someone who's looking to you, okay? And here's just some simple little graphics to share that, okay? Okay, I've been talking about this, and this is a really important tip, is create multiple job search targets and manage them strategically. Okay, so we've been talking about, getting specific, having specific job search targets, but have more than one. You can have up to 3. You can have up to 4. But I think if you're really doing the job search, like a professional job search, you're probably can manage about 2 or 3, honestly, if you're really focusing in on that. So here's some examples of what I mean a strategic job search campaign. All right, so here's an example. It's a digital account executive. That's the first part of the job search target. The second was environmental nonprofit. That's this person's plan A. You can see a variety of things. Reconnect. Here's an establishing a connection or a relationship. Here's a professional association. Apply for 2 actual jobs. Get my resume and cover letter reviewed. Bookmark business journal in Denver because that's where I want to move to. So that's just within a week. Okay, so each week you're going to want to make a list of like, okay, what am I doing to cultivate my network? What am I doing to fine tune my job search materials? What am I doing to, am I sourcing jobs? Am I looking for jobs? Am I reading through emails? Job search targets. Okay. Here's an example. Now this one is probably the most developed for this person. It's the most clear in their mind. You can tell because I can show you that as it goes down, it's a little bit more like I need to learn more about this, and that's fine. That's why I'm giving you permission to have more than one job search target. So you can have one that's pretty focused and have a couple like, well, I'm not really sure, but I need to explore that. That's a job search target, but you need to kind of keep on working on it and getting your mind clear about it. So here's the second one, naturals for state agency, plan B, research organizations, conduct informational interviews. That's an example of I'm still figuring it out. And then plan C is really broad. Brand manager for outdoor clothing line. Yeah, you can generate a list of organizations, revise resume, connect with an alum I found. All right. So all these together, you can see how this really does amount to kind of a full-time job. All right. Now you're college students and your first priority is being college students and graduating, right? And so I understand. So this is all for you to manage. And so, the more strategic you are, the more you can kind of spread this out throughout your week. And things that I suggest students do is if there's an open spot in your calendar, in your weekly calendar, maybe it's Friday mornings, maybe it's Saturdays, something like that, I would really devote that, schedule that time to be your job search time. This is the time, don't let anything else kind of interrupt that space. And that's the time that you are devoting to supporting your job search. And that's where you're sending out, you're creating email job alerts, and you're joining professional associations, and you're fine tuning your LinkedIn profile, all of that. That's that time that you have on Friday, and really devote weekly time. You're going to spend weekly time to do this. Don't, do it once a month because you're going to lose your head of momentum. You're going to lose momentum. So at least once a week. Okay. And this is a very important tip as well, is target your resume and cover letter to the position. There are 3 things that pull on a resume that make it unique. One is you. Okay, you are unique from your peers and colleagues. Now you've all had similar classes. You had similar assignments and similar outcomes for that. So you may have similar skills, but you still are different humans. You've had different internships and different part-time jobs and other kinds of, you may have different minors, you have different certificates. All right, so that's one unique part. But the other pieces are the particular job and the industry. Every industry has its own kind of look with resumes. Okay. And so understanding what your resume, what your industry does. So in architecture design, these are going to be a little bit more graphic than um, what you would typically see. Okay. So then you would say, let's say like an engineering resume, which is pretty straightforward, you know, uh, pretty typical, I would say, your standard. So it's good to understand kind of what the conventions within your industry are following with resumes. So understanding that, but making sure that you are shining in your resume and applying for a particular job and fine tuning. This is a pet peeve of most recruiters. No, not most, all recruiters, is getting in their inbox, generic materials where it's just kind of sent scattershot or generic cover letters. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why they like referrals, because they know that every time they post positions, they're going to get a good 70% of them look like are coming from people that didn't read the job description. Okay. So if you spend the time and energy of fine tuning and customizing your resume and cover letter, it will be helpful down the road and you're more likely to get an invitation to interview. If you are sending out applications, resumes, and cover letters, and you're not getting any kind of nibble or any kind of callback or response, then I would take another look at your resume and cover letter and see, is this really doing what it needs to do? Okay, so I won't, we have a couple career fairs coming up in the spring term. And so on page 9 are some helpful tips on how to navigate that, but we'll skip over that here. So social media is really important. We all know about the hazards of social media. So let me talk about this in a more positive light. I think social media can be very effective with demonstrating and highlighting your fit and your commitment to your field. What kind of architecture, what kind of designer are you? And your aesthetic, your viewpoint. What kind of work do you want to do? And so, think about this. If you were to Google your name and open up some social media accounts, what would they learn about you? What would they understand? People you follow or things that you retweet or whatever platform you're using. It's also important to know which platform is popular in your field. So we know that employers are using social media to review you a little bit before the job application. Okay, so I would really enhance your LinkedIn profile if this is a fit. Now, this is not. It's either. Here's my advice on it at LinkedIn. If you're going to have it, really invest in it. If you're not into it, then that's fine. But it's kind of not a halvesies here. If you're going to invest in a LinkedIn profile, really invest in having a LinkedIn profile. What's nice about you and many of the things that you are working on is you have visual representations of your work. And there's research out there that shows that people who can share visual representations of their work on LinkedIn, they're more likely to get looked at by recruiters. Okay. So really spend the time and make it part of your strategy to enhance and get your LinkedIn up to date. Okay. All right. So then final tip is maintain relationships by being ethical and transparent. Okay. There is an ethics to the job search, and part of it is being honest and open and transparent within reason. Okay. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, referred job seekers 3 to 4 times more likely to be hired. Okay. So you want to cultivate your networks and your relationships, and you really want to kind of come to the job search process ethically. So a couple things are, withdraw from the job search. You're going to have lots of sticks in the fire and lots of leaves, and some are hot and some are cold and some are lukewarm and things like that. So as you work through the job search process and you get an offer and you decide to accept, if you've accepted a position, then it is ethical to withdraw from your active searches. Now, if you were really interested in another organization and you really were intrigued by their opportunity, you can call them up or contact them, email them, and say, I have another offer here. This is before you've accepted the offer here. And say, but I'm really interested in your opportunity. Can you share with me where I am with this timeline? And so that's a way to kind of, and you can ask for, and when someone offers you a job, you're typically going to say, well, let me take some time to think it over. So you're going to have a little bit of time to think this through and contact these other organizations that you think you're probably in the running. If you're, you either have an upcoming invitation, sometimes they can speed up the invitation. There's some things, but if you learn that you're not really a candidate, or if their process is going to be too long, then you have the information you need. Okay. So those are ways of navigating this so that you can remain kind of transparent and ethical in your job search. What you don't want to have happen is you accept a position on good faith with an organization and they start the process of hiring you and training you and onboarding you. And then, 2 months, 3 months, or whatever time down the road, this other organization comes open or comes forward and offers you a position, and you withdraw. And if you decline the first position and accept the other position, you're really going to kind of there's going to be not pleasant feelings by the recruiter. Okay. And that could come back in your future job searches, because it's possible that you may encounter them in future job searches, or this may be a future colleague. Okay. The other thing is updating. When you have accepted a position, update your network, let them know. So those same people that you told, I'm looking for these kinds of positions, let them know. And you can do this easily through email and say, hey, I just want to it could be a 3-liner. Just want to let you know that I accepted a position with this organization and I start in three weeks. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your help. And it's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be very elaborate, but let me tell you, that goes a long way for your network in helping you out, because it's just helping them understand where you are and what you're doing. And then say thank you. Say thank you, especially to those people who have served as references. Make sure that they, understand your appreciation. By the way, when you are approaching references and asking them, it's helpful to provide them as much information as you can about your job search. So if you have a job link, send them that, or send them the most recent copy of your resume. Let them know that you're applying and using them as a reference. So like, let's say you asked for the permission, and you should always ask people permission to use them as a reference. So let's say you ask them in February, but maybe it's August by the time you're interviewing for position. Reacquaint them with your job search, who you are, because that's a long time in between, and they've got other people they're serving as references, and they really want to help you. They really want to make sure that they're talking well of you. So, they're looking for talking points from you, honestly. So a quick email can get that done. Okay. But definitely say thank you when you finish with that part. And that really helps down the road. Okay. So a question I get a lot from candidates, people looking for a job, is how long is this going to take? And so on pages 12 to 13 of this guide, there's some troubleshooting, and I've already kind of hinted at this earlier. So for one example, let's say you're sending out job applications, resumes and cover letters, and you're simply not getting any kind of nibble at all. That is a sign to me. There's a couple things happening. One is that your materials, there's something going on with your materials. There's maybe too generic, or there's something that's off-putting. It's not specific enough. It could be that you're just not giving it enough time. It could be that you're too narrow in your focus. It could be that you don't have a breadth of kinds of positions in that you're looking for. So you may not have. You're putting all your eggs in one basket, is what I'm trying to say. There's lots of ways that this could be going wrong. But if you're not getting nibbles, that's a signal there's something. You need to take another look at those job application materials. Things that help speed up your network, tried and true, is how thick your network is. Okay. So the more time you spend with cultivating your network, your relationships, the faster this will go. This is a known thing. All right. And definitely that will speed up the particular skills that you have and what the market will bear. So if you have a particular hot set of skills or that is really up and coming, it's what the industry wants and it's needing, and you're kind of one of a few people, that will definitely speed up your search. But if you find that you are kind of you're within an average range, you may have a slower search. Okay. So things like that, but the strength of your connections, your skills, your materials really impact the amount of time that you're spending. Chipping away on this on a weekly basis will really speed up your search too. So you've got to spend time doing this. Okay. All right. So this is the Career Center. We're located in Summerfield Hall. Most of our services right now are virtual, kind of like what I'm doing right here. And but we do, and that's Monday through Friday, 8 to 7 p.m. We have early evening hours, but we also have in-person services on Fridays, every Friday from 10 to 3. To make an appointment, you can call our number. You can also go on our website, which I showed you earlier, career.ku.edu, and we have an online scheduler. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there's any questions at this point from the group. Feel free to shout something out or pop something in the chat.
Wendy, I've got a question. Oh, sorry. Does someone else have one?
Not yet, or not at least to me. They may have sent it to you. But yeah.
Okay. I thought I cut someone off. So I think we all know that the landscape looks a little different right now, just as a result of COVID, and we are expecting to see, some changes in the job market. What advice do you have for students just about, staying persistent and following up and things like that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Yeah, we are experiencing some volatility in the job market, since April, and that likely won't change. And so staying persistent. I think this is why I suggested scheduling weekly time to do this on it. So chip away at this in small little pieces every week. And but also that's why your networks are really important. So surround yourself with people who can support you and cheer you on and help you. If you don't have those people in your life, I'm going to put a plug in the career coaches, because that's what we're here to do. We can be your weekly appointment. We can be your weekly cheerleader. And we can be your homework checker if you commit to, like, I need to develop this my LinkedIn profile. We can be your kind of accountability coach. It's not like we're going to be mad if you don't do it, but just sometimes you just need someone to, like, just know that they're going to, like, I'm going to have this appointment with Wendy at Wednesday at 2:00, and I know she's going to be, because I told her I was going to have my intro section done in my LinkedIn profile, so I better get that done. And but faculty, friends, supervisors, internship supervisors, it's helpful to have a job search network, or kind of a job search club, for lack of a better way of saying it. So if you are in the space of looking for a job with other students and you're all in the same boat, schedule a weekly meeting where you can share the highlights and joys and frustrations and challenges and celebrate those rewards. Like, I finally got someone to call me, those kinds of things. That's amazing. So yeah, connections and scheduled weekly time, I think, are kind of the best advice I have around that. But be persistent. You're right. It's a good question.
Well, I'm not sure if anyone, oh, now I'm getting emails, sorry. So if anyone has any questions after today, I'm sure that, as Wendy said, anyone in the Career Services Center would be more than happy to work with you to answer those questions that you have. Absolutely reach out to your studio faculty, your area faculty. They are such an amazing resource to you. They have, they understand and they have their own professional networks. Of former students as well as colleagues and peers that they've worked with in the past that are just a great knowledge base and point of connections. I'm gonna send in the chat the remaining lunch and learns that we have coming up this semester. So in 2 weeks on the 26th, we have a industrial design alumni who's going to speak about his career and the importance of agility in design. As we said, we're all dealing with shifting landscapes and market spaces. And so he's going to talk about that. And then, picking up off of what Wendy spoke about today, especially her tip number 7 about, personal branding and utilizing social media thoughtfully. Kim Beeler, also from the University Career Center, is going to speak about professional branding for professional platforms. And then on November 23rd, we're going to wrap up the semester. Lindsay Horton from the Academic Career Center, is that right? Is going to speak just about, finishing the semester strong, especially remotely, and some of the challenges that presents. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Wendy, for your time, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be with you all. Take care.
Thank you.